Hello and welcome to my channel. This week I'm going to upcycle some curtain rings into some Christmas tree decorations. For this midweek make, I'm going to recycle or upcycle some, this is curtain rings. We just had new windows fitted and I thought I might need these, but I didn't. So I'm going to use them to make Christmas decorations. So I've got this red J. Diction pigment. It's for resin. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that in the bottom of my cup. Just one drop. See how I go with that. And I'm going to use some UV resin. And I will pop some of that in the pot too. I've just got a stick to mix that with. See if I get a nice red. Might add a little bit more of the resin. Anything that I don't use here, I'll just pop this little pot into a box to keep all the light out, and I can use it for something else. Yep, that looks pretty good. I've got some iridescent glitter here. I'm going to put a little bit of that in there. Just get a little scoop. Looks pretty good. And I'll mix that in as well. And I'm going to use this snowflake mould, and it came as a set. I'll link that if I can find it. I think I got it off of Amazon. So there was a set of larger ones with the holes to make pendants. Well, not pendants, just hanging snowflakes. And then smaller ones, much smaller ones. So I'm going to put I'm only going to really use this middle one. I really like the shape of it. So I'm just going to put my resin in here, and I might need to do a couple of layers. So I'm just going to fill it up with a stick, just scooping it in and using the stick just to push it into the corners. There's a lot of right angles, or angles, not necessarily right angles, but a lot of angles in here. So I just want to make sure that it fills all the little areas, and hopefully there aren't any bubbles. Oh, I haven't got that end. Okay, I'm going to pop that in my lamp, and I've got the Let's Resin double lamp, so it will cure from the top and the bottom at the same time. I'm going to put that on for 2 minutes. Okay, that's done. So I'm just going to fill it up until it's level with the top. Like so. Okay, that should be enough. Okay, I've got a very small eye hook here. And I'm just going to lay that on the top. Just try and arrange it so that it is a little bit in the resin. Dot over the top there. And then I'm going to put that under the lamp for another 2 minutes. Okay, that's done. So I'm just going to pop that out the back. You can see that's really pretty. Right, so this is not fixed securely. Oops, not fixed securely yet. So I'm just going to lay this on the top. And I'm going to put a bit more resin just so that it goes over the back of this little screw. And then I'm going to cure that too. Okay, while I'm waiting for that to finish, I'm going to take the little eye hook out of the top of the ring. I've got a hand drill. You can use an electric drill if you want. And I'm just going to drill into this hole and push my way through, hopefully. Okay, so my hole's gone all the way through now, and that's cured. So I just have a piece of some beading thread, and I'm going to put that through my star and tie a knot. There we go. So I've got a little knot there, and hopefully that'll be fine. Now I have a very thin piece of wire. You could use sort of fishing wire, monofilament fine line. If you've got a fine enough needle that you can pass through your hole and you can get that thread through the eye, then use that. So I'm just going to try and pass this through the hole from the inside out. Excuse me. And then I'm going to put my thread, both pieces, through the middle of the loop and hold that at the back, and then I can pull that through the hole and out the top. Just pull both the tails through. Come on, there you go. And that sits in the middle. So I'm going to put a very small amount of glue. I'm going to use B7000, you can use E6000, super glue, whatever you want really, just to give it some added strength. So unscrew that and put a blob just in the top. Oops, a daisy. And then refind my eye hook and screw that back in. And then you can snip off the extra tails at the top, and that's really, really cute, ready to hang up. So I think I want a little bit more bling on there, so I'm going to show you what I'm going to do in a minute. I've also got these shapes. They're wooden snowflake shapes, which I think I got from the works, and I really like them, but I want crystally snowflakes. I don't want solid wooden snowflakes, even if I paint them white. They are pretty. I have tried some, painted them white and put some glitter on them, but I want to see if I can make my own mould from these. They're very intricate, so I don't know if it's going to work, but I've got some of this it's mouldable. You sort of heat it up and then you can mould it, and then you can reheat it and remold it again. So this is what it looks like. You can see it's clear. So I'm going to heat this up using a heat gun and see if I can make a mould so that I can use my UV resin to create these little snowflakes. So I'm just going to get my heat gun, plug that in, and then I'll go ahead and show you how I heat this up. Right, I've just put the clay on a heat mat just to protect my surface a little bit, and I've got my heat gun, so I'm just going to warm this up now. Now you can use water, the packet does say to use water, but obviously we don't really want water to come in contact with the resin, so I'm just reusing a bit here that I've used before. Do be careful, you don't want to burn your fingers, but you can see it's moulding quite quickly. I'm going to try this small piece first. I'm going to get it quite soft. Okay, let's try that. I'm going to lay this down on my mat and I'm literally going to squish this over the top of it. Try and make sure that it's all covered. And ideally, if you've got something flat that you can push on the back, that would be ideal. Let me see if I can find something quickly. Okay, I've got this acrylic sheet. I'm just going to push that onto the back. Try and make sure that the back is as flat as possible. And then I'm going to let that cool. So I'm hoping I can get that out in a minute. Just leave it a second to cool. While that's doing that, I'm going to heat this other one up and try and do the same thing with that. Really warm. The thicker it is, obviously, the longer it takes to absorb the heat. But you can see that didn't take very long. Okay. And same thing. Roll it into a ball, make sure it's big enough. And I'm going to squish that on the top. And I'm going to take the plate and push down, try and make it flat. And I'll let that cool as well. Okay, let's see if I can take this one out now. Might have been a good idea to have varnished them before I tried this. And see if I can... Oh, yeah, that was one of the other downsides. A lot of these have broken because they're extremely fine. So if I can make a mould, I'll be very happy. And obviously you could varnish these and make a silicone mould. It's just this is almost instantaneous. As you can see, they are just breaking to pieces. But that looks like I've got everything, and I guess the only way we'll find out is if I make something from it. So this is still a little bit soft, this one. So I'm just going to leave that a little bit longer before I try and take it out. But let's try this and see whether that works. So I might as well leave it on here. And let me get my red resin. And the beauty of this stuff is it is see-through, so it works really well for UV resin. Let's see what happens. Really intricate little pieces, so I don't know, this is an experiment. See what happens, whether it's strong enough to actually come out or if the pieces are just too fine. So I'm just filling up as many of the areas as I can with just this one layer, not too thick. I can add a clear layer on the back. Right. Let me put this under the lamp and see what happens. Just try and clear these little bits that overlapped first. Two minutes. Okay, before I get that out of the lamp, let's see if I can get this one out as well. It's pretty flexible, the plastic. Oh, another one I broke. Oh well, sacrificed for the experiment. That looks pretty good. So I'm using the same red UV resin just to fill in the little holes. I'm trying to be a little bit more careful with this and just fill them in and push the stick around into the bottom just to make sure that there aren't any bubbles trapped underneath the resin as it's going into the very tiny little pieces. So I'm just guiding it round, and then I need to cure it. Okay, while that's on the other side curing, let's see if I can take this out. Of course, it's not going to be shiny because the source wasn't shiny. I've got a couple of holes there. I think that was down to me more than anything else. See if I can pick these little extra bits off. And then, oh, there you go. So that's amazing how much detail I've managed to get with that stuff. As I say, I've got some holes. There's some holes here. Don't know if that's actually in the mold or if it's just that I didn't put the resin in there, you know, well enough and get all the bubbles out. But I can top coat this. So I've got some excess here. Again, you could see I wasn't careful about actually putting it in there because I just wanted to experiment and get it done. Very impatient. So let me wait for this one to come out, and I will put a little bit of resin on the top to make it a little shiny, and we'll see what happens with this other one. So I'm just dabbing some of the UV resin on top. I'm just trying to put as few drops as possible on there. And then I'm going to use this cotton bud just to spread that over the surface. It just needs a very thin coat to give the shine back to the surface. And I gave up on the cotton bud and used my fingers instead, as per usual. So once it's coated, you can see that it looks a little bit better. It's a lot shinier. So I'm just going to let that sit for a few seconds just to level out, and then I'm going to put it underneath the lamp and cure it again for 2 minutes. Okay, let's see if I can get this one out now. There's a lot of little tight areas in between that are gripping and holding it in place. Oh, that looks like it came out pretty good. Again, I need to just clean up any of these little random edges, and give it a top coat. So I gave that one a top coat, and you can see that's a lot better. I'm going to pop some resin on top of that and just smooth it over the top. Really, really small amount, just to bring the shine back. Maybe a little bit more than that. Just let it sit so that it self-levels. Maybe I'll give that one a little bit more as well, because it's quite textured from my finger. And if the clear runs down in between, that's okay. It's giving it some added strength. It really is very thin in places. So I'm going to put those back under the light. Okay, now I've got another ring, and I'm pushing it down on top of my mould and trying to make sure that I get a good seal. And then I'm going around the inside edge with some UV resin. I'm going to take my stick and I'm just going to try and pull out any bubbles that might be stuck under the recess. Because it's rounded, they tend to get stuck under there. Once I've got it all covered, I'm going to use my lamp just to cure it for 2 minutes. Now I can take it off of the mould and check the back, and that looks pretty good. Got a nice seal. It's a little bit dirty where the mould was scratched, so it looks a little cloudy. So I'm just going to give the back a top coat. Then I can smooth it out using a stick, make sure there are no bubbles in it, and then I'll go ahead, give that a cure under the lamp for another 2 minutes. That's out of the lamp now, and I'm putting some resin into the middle of the front. I'm just going to add a little bit of the glitter, and I'll put that straight into the resin. Then I can use my stick to mix it and make sure that it gets to all of the edges. I want to make sure that it contacts the side of the ring. So I'll just push that out to the sides and spread it out. Make sure it gets everywhere. And then I will be able to place my snowflake into the resin, and I'll be able to cure that again. I've made 2 types of decoration. I've got one with snowflake that is just free dangling in the middle, and the other one, the snowflake is fixed and held into the resin. Now I want to add a little bit more sparkle to this, so I've just got some acrylic varnish here, and I'm going to use that to add some silver flakes onto the outsides. Now you would usually use a size, which is a glue that will become tacky when it slightly dries, and then you add your flakes. But it really isn't necessary to have that. I don't have that. So I'm going to show you that it does work with the acrylic varnish. I've just put a thin layer on the ring, and whilst it is still wet, I'm going to start adding my flakes. And this is always the messiest part. They literally go everywhere. So I've got some silver flakes, and I'm going to take some off. I'm trying to use the tweezers, but I don't get on with them. I just find it much easier to use my hands. So I'm just adding chunks of the flakes, and I'm making sure that they are pushed onto the resin so that they do adhere. But I don't care if there are bits that are sort of hanging off or there are great big chunks everywhere. I'm just going to keep laying them on, make sure that some of the flakes actually have contact with, I think I said resin, but I meant the varnish, the acrylic varnish. And then I'm going to leave this to dry. And once it's completely dry, the flakes that are in contact with the varnish will be stuck, and you can just use a brush to brush off any of the loose pieces. So I'm going to just go ahead and complete the rest, and then I'll come back when they're ready to brush off the excess. Okay, this is dry now, so I'm just using a paintbrush, and I'm just brushing off anything that hasn't stuck. And you can see they are bonded quite nicely. So it isn't always necessary to have size. You can use acrylic varnish. Just put them down and leave them, and you can brush them off afterwards once the acrylic varnish has gone off. But there you go. And just do the same to this one. Take off any of the excess. And what I'll do is I'm actually going to use sticky tape to pick up all of the tiny bits of glitter in the same way that you clean your molds. And you can use that sticky tape in your resin pieces, so nothing needs to go to waste. And I'll show you that another time. Just get all of that off. There we go. I think they're quite pretty. So I'm just going to finish doing the same to these, and then I just need to put some thread through them. Okay, just before I thread them, I've just got some packing tape. In the same way that I clean the molds, I'm just going to pick up all of this off my mat. Or as much as I can. Clean that. And in the process of cleaning it, I am making a nice backdrop. I don't want any lumps. I don't mind having a few bits of glitter that might be there. Just get the worst of it off. And then I'm just going to use my fingers just to burnish that down. And this is still sticky, so you can stick it onto things should you want to, but I'll show you in a minute how you can use this in some resin. So in the meantime, I'm just going to lay this back over my roll. And I'll come back to that in a minute. And I've got this silver yarn, probably for crochet or something. So I'm just going to make some loops out of that, because I think it's pretty and sparkly. I will show you some photos at the end. Quick bonus, how you can use your cleanup tape. I'm just going to make these out of UV resin. I'm trying to use this resin up. It's not my favorite. Just spread this out a little bit and give it a second to sit. Right, so I'll cure that. Okay, I'm going to give it another layer. Right, so I've left some room to add yet another layer. I'm going to put that in there and cure that. I'll put that on in a minute. Now, the tape is sticky. You can see it's still sticky. Just take it off my fingers. Lay it flat. So I've got some plum chameleon powder here, and just going to use my brush, and I'm just going to paint over the surface, and it will stick to wherever there is sticky and solve the problem so that it is no longer sticky, and it will look pretty at the same time. I'm just going to paint this on here. That's coated now. Here's just a heart that I've already made from that mold, so I'm just going to place that on there And I don't know if this will mark it enough for me to see. Let's have a look. A little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to use a pen, and I'm just going to draw around and hope that that actually marks, which it should, so that I can get an idea. And I'm going to cut in within that line anyway. You are going to want some space. There's my second cure. So now I'm going to cut my tape. I'm just cutting about 2 millimeters within the line. You do want the resin to go around the outside of it. You don't want it to be edge to edge. Let's check that out. I think it probably could be cut a little bit closer, or a little bit more rather, just a very tiny amount. That looks pretty good. Right, so now I need to put some more resin in here. I'm just going to spread that around. And then I can lay my film in, and I'm going to push it down. And I'm starting at the bottom and working my way along, pushing any air and bubbles, hopefully. So I kept pushing the air out and the resin, and then I top coated it. I want to make sure all the film is submerged. And then I used my double curing lamp to cure it for 2 minutes. Okay, that's done. I'm just going to pop it out of the mould. And you can see it's pretty see-through, but it's really pretty. You've got that colour shift. You can back it if you want to in a black, or just spray paint the back, whatever you'd like. So it's just a quick way to use up, well, something that you would normally throw away while you're cleaning up. And you don't have to use the mica. I like the mica, but you can put glitter on there. Put a pendant on there, pop this on a card for a pocket hug or something. But as I say, it's just a little bonus way of using up something that you would normally throw away. So here I've popped them on just a little Christmas tree that I've got, just to show you. And I think they look really cute. I'm going with a red and white theme this year. I hope you've liked this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up and comment. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. It's free. I will be back on Friday with another video. And on the 14th of December, I will be taking part in the Christmas collaboration with Mini Scenes GB and Crafty YouTubers United. So come back for that. Thanks for watching. Bye.